You know that feeling, right? You're scrolling maybe on your phone,
Uh-huh.
and you should probably click on that, I don't know, that serious article someone shared.
Yeah, the worthy stuff.
Exactly, but your finger just like automatically goes to the video of a cat falling off a shelf or something.
Oh, definitely. We've all been there.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. Why does the funny stuff, the humorous content, seem to grab us so much more easily than the educational material?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've been digging into this paper, why people prefer humor over educational content, the science behind engagement.
Sounds interesting.
It really is. It gets right into the psychology of why we click, why we share, why laughter often beats learning, at least in that immediate moment.
So what's our mission here? Just figuring out why cat videos win.
Well, sort of. We want to understand the underlying reasons, the psychological stuff, the social factors, basically trying to decode why some online content just, takes off, while other really valuable stuff might just sit there. It's relevant for anyone online, really.
Okay, let's get into it. The paper starts with the brain, right? Something about rewards.
Exactly. It kicks off with our brain's reward system.
Hmm.
When you encounter something funny, your brain releases dopamine.
Dopamine. Okay, I've heard of that. What does that actually, do? Why is it important here?
So dopamine is this key neurotransmitter,
Mm.
chemical messenger. It's heavily involved in pleasure, motivation, that feeling of, oh, that was good, let's do it again.
Ah, okay.
And there's research, like a study back in 2003 by Mobbs and his team, that showed humorous stuff activates the same brain regions as other enjoyable things,
Like what?
like getting a pleasant surprise, or even basic things like eating food you enjoy. It's your brain saying, yes, good.
So my brain literally gets a little reward hit from a funny meme.
Pretty much. It's a fundamental feel-good signal, a little nudge saying, hey, pay attention, this is nice.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense why I'd click the next funny thing. But what about learning? Does that trigger the same immediate reward?
Not usually in the same way. Educational content often demands more, cognitive effort.
Right, you have to concentrate.
Exactly. You're processing, figuring things out, connecting ideas. That uses different brain pathways. Now, learning can be rewarding, absolutely. That aha moment feels great,
Yeah.
but it's often a more delayed gratification compared to the quick, instant hit from humor, which poses a real challenge, right? How do you make learning feel immediately rewarding?
Yeah, definitely. After a long day, my brain isn't looking for more work. It wants that easy chuckle. Okay, so besides the brain chemistry, the paper talks about stress and social connection.
Yes, that's another huge factor. Think about laughing with friends. It cuts through tension, doesn't it?
To-
Laughter is a well-known coping mechanism for stress. There's research on this too. Martin looked at this back in 2001. Humor helps us deal with stress, and it strengthens social bonds.
How does that relate to clicking on content?
Well, if something makes you feel good, less stressed, and maybe reminds you of connecting with others, you're naturally drawn to it.
Right, like sharing a funny video with a group chat or something.
Precisely. That shared laugh builds connection. It makes the content feel positive, memorable, and very shareable.
And educational stuff can feel a bit lonely sometimes.
It can, yeah. If you're wrestling with a complex idea, it might feel isolating, even demanding. Humor often brings people together, even implicitly online. It reduces that tension.
That's a really good point. The social side is powerful. Okay, the paper also mentioned something called ease of processing. What's that about?
It's a concept from cognitive psychology. Basically, our brains are a bit lazy.
Huh. Mine definitely is sometimes.
Well, we all tend to prefer information that's easy to digest, that doesn't require a ton of mental effort.
And humor is
Hmm.
easy.
Often, yes. A good joke, a witty observation, it usually packages an idea very concisely. You get the setup, the punchline, bang. Instant understanding, instant amusement.
No need to read footnotes or cross-reference.
Exactly. And research backs this up. Nabi and colleagues in 2007 found humorous ads were easier to remember and, crucially, required less cognitive effort than just presenting facts.
So in our super fast, information overloaded world.
Ease wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
If something offers quick enjoyment and understanding without asking too much of your brain power, it's got a massive advantage.
Especially with shrinking attention spans.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there are the algorithms,
Yeah.
social media platforms. How do they fit in?
The algorithms, they're a really key part of this whole picture.
They control what we see,
On
basically.
a large extent, yeah. Platforms are designed to keep you engaged, right? So they prioritize content that gets quick reactions, likes, comments, shares.
And funny stuff gets those reactions fast. Very fast, usually. Think about it. A quick laugh often leads to an instant like or share. Research by Berger and Milkman in 2012 showed that content causing emotional arousal, especially positive stuff like humor, is way more likely to go viral.
So the funny video gets liked, the algorithm sees that, shows it to more people, they like it.
Exactly. It's a feedback loop, a snowball effect. The algorithm amplifies what's already getting that rapid engagement.
And detailed educational content might not get that instant buzz.
Often, no. It might be incredibly valuable long-term, but the initial engagement can be slower, maybe more thoughtful comments instead of quick likes, so it just doesn't get pushed as hard by the system.
Right. Okay, another angle the paper mentions is relatability. Why is that so important for humor?
Humor often works because it connects to shared experiences, right?
Mhm.
We laugh because we see something familiar, some common human quirk or situation presented in a funny way.
Yeah, you feel like, oh, I totally do that.
Exactly. And there's this interesting idea called the benign violation theory.
Benign violation. Sounds serious.
Yeah. But the idea is simple. It suggests humor happens when something seems wrong or unexpected or somehow violates our expectations.
Okay.
But it's also harmless. It's benign. So something's off, but it's okay. Nobody's actually getting hurt. The situation isn't truly threatening. That combination of violation and safety is often where we find the humor.
Ah, I see. Like seeing someone trip but not fall, maybe, or a misunderstanding that turns out fine.
Precisely. It's that safe disruption of the norm. And because it often taps into things we all recognize, it feels relatable. That relatability makes us want to share it. Look, this funny thing happened. Don't we all know this feeling?
Whereas purely educational stuff might not have that immediate personal connection.
It might not, unless it's presented in a really engaging way that connects to the audience's own lives or experiences.
Hmm.
Humor often has that relatability built in.
Okay, so humor seems to have like all the advantages: brain chemistry, stress relief, social bonding, easy processing, algorithms, relatability. Is there any hope for educational content?
Huh? Yes, definitely. The paper doesn't just diagnose the problem. It talks about a solution, or at least a strategy. Edutainment.
Edutainment, like education plus entertainment.
Exactly that. Blending the two. Research, Liam Ma in 2012, suggests that making learning more engaging, more entertaining can really bridge that gap.
So how does that work in practice?
Think about really great TED Talks. They often use storytelling, maybe some humor, compelling visuals.
Yeah.
They're not just dry lectures.
Right. Or those popular science channels on YouTube.
Perfect example. They break down complex stuff using animations, charismatic hosts, maybe a bit of wit. They're making the learning process itself more enjoyable, easier to digest, maybe even triggering some of those positive feelings we talked about.
So it's about borrowing some of humor's tricks, making learning less like work and more like, well, fun.
That's the core idea.
Mhm.
Using storytelling, finding relatable angles, maybe incorporating humor where it fits, using engaging formats. It's all about understanding why humor works so well and applying some of those principles to sharing knowledge.
Okay, so let's try and bring it all together then. Why do we tend to click on the funny video over the educational article?
Well, it seems to boil down to a few key things. First, that immediate dopamine hit in our brain's reward center. Just feels good instantly.
No, the pleasure principle.
Then there's the stress reduction and social bonding aspect. Laughter connects us and makes us feel better.
Easier on the brain, too, that ease of processing thing.
Definitely. Less cognitive load. Plus, the social media algorithms tend to favor that quick emotional engagement that humor generates so well.
And finally, that relatability factor, tapping into shared experiences.
Exactly. It's this powerful mix. Positive emotions, social connection, cognitive ease, algorithmic preference, and relatability. Humor just naturally ticks a lot of those boxes.
So humor has this kind of built-in advantage in the attention economy.
It really does. But as we said, that doesn't mean educational content can't compete. Understanding why humor is so appealing is the first step towards making learning more engaging, too.
It makes you think, doesn't it? When you're scrolling next time, or maybe if you're creating something yourself, it's worth considering. How can we make important information as compelling as a cat video? Maybe not always possible, but
But definitely something to think about. How can we learn from laughter to help learning stick? It's a fascinating challenge.